The 1970s were motorcycling's Wild West. No traction control, no ABS, no rider aids, just raw, unfiltered power delivered through drum brakes, sketchy tires, and chassis that handled like drunk shopping carts at speed. These weren't bikes designed by lawyers and safety committees. They were built by engineers who cared more about performance than lawsuits. And the result? Some of the most dangerous, thrilling, utterly insane motorcycles ever to terrorize public roads. Riders loved them anyway. Maybe because of the danger, not in spite of it. Because in the 70s, riding a motorcycle meant something. It was rebellion, freedom, a middle finger to safety and sanity. Today, we're looking at 10 motorcycles from the 1970s that were objectively too dangerous to ride. Bikes that killed people. Bikes magazines called death traps. Bikes that became legends precisely because they scared the hell out of everyone who twisted the throttle. Buckle up. This is going to be a wild ride. Hit subscribe if you want more stories about the bikes that defined an era. The good, the bad, and the absolutely terrifying. Drop a comment with which of these bikes you'd actually ride. Let's go. Let's start with the BSA Rocket 3, a 750cc triple that made 58 horsepower, impressive for 1970, but weighed over 500 pounds and handled like it was actively trying to kill you. The problem? Weight distribution. BSA mounted that triple engine so far forward that the front end felt like it weighed twice as much as the rear. That made the bike incredibly unstable at speed, especially in corners. Riders described it as wallowing through turns. The front tire would push, the rear would step out. And if you panicked and chopped the throttle mid-corner, the weight shift could high-side you into next week. But here's why people loved it. That engine sounded incredible. 3 cylinders, howling in harmony. And when you got it right, when you committed to a corner and trusted the bike, it was exhilarating. The Rocket 3 wasn't the fastest bike of the 70s, but it was one of the scariest. And for riders who wanted that edge, that was enough. If any bike deserves the title Widowmaker, it's the Kawasaki H2 Mach IV, a 750cc two-stroke triple that made 74 horsepower and weighed just 450 pounds. That's a power-to-weight ratio that embarrassed most bikes of its era and terrified anyone who rode one. The H2 was fast, quarter-mile times under 12 seconds, top speed over 120 mph, but it was also a nightmare to control. Two-stroke power delivery is peaky by nature. The H2's engine did nothing below 5,000 RPM, then exploded with violent, uncontrollable power above 7,000. That made it twitchy, unpredictable, and genuinely dangerous. The chassis couldn't handle the power. The brakes were marginal at best. The tires were bias ply garbage that lost grip under hard acceleration. And the handling? Forget it. High-speed wobbles were common. The bike would flex and shake like it was coming apart. Riders called it a death trap on wheels. Magazine reviews warned novices to stay away. Insurance companies charged astronomical rates, if they'd insure it at all. And yet, people lined up to buy them, because the H2 offered something no other bike could. Pure, unadulterated speed wrapped in danger and adrenaline. It was a drug, and riders were addicts. The Norton Commando is often remembered as one of the best bikes of the 70s, and in many ways, it was. Gorgeous styling, smooth engine, decent handling for the era, but it had a dark side. The isoelastic engine mounting system, rubber mounts designed to reduce vibration, created its own problems. At certain speeds, the entire engine would oscillate inside the frame, creating a terrifying wobble that made riders think the bike was falling apart. Above 80 minutes rope, the Commando could become genuinely frightening. The front end would shake. The bars would vibrate so hard your hands went numb. And if you hit a bump at speed, all hell broke loose. The electrical system was notoriously unreliable. Lucas Electrics, British engineering at its finest, meant bikes that wouldn't start, lights that flickered, and charging systems that quit without warning. But damn, it looked good. And when it was running right, the Commando was smooth, torquey, and capable. That's why riders tolerated the danger. Beauty has a price. Suzuki tried to make a civilized touring bike out of a two-stroke triple. The result was the GT750, nicknamed the Water Buffalo for its liquid-cooled engine and hefty 550-pound weight. It was fast, 68 horsepower from 750cc, but it was also unpredictable. Two-stroke power delivery combined with touring bike weight created a motorcycle with severe handling issues. The GT750 had a tendency to tank slap at speed, hit a bump while accelerating hard, and the handlebars would violently oscillate, fighting for control. Inexperienced riders panicked, chopped the throttle, and crashed. The brakes were undersized for the weight. Stopping from 100 mph required both brakes, perfect technique, and a prayer. Many riders learned the hard way that the Water Buffalo didn't stop. It just slowed down eventually. But it was also smooth, comfortable, and capable of eating highway miles. Suzuki marketed it as a gentleman's sport tour. What they didn't mention was that the gentleman in question needed steel nerves and excellent reflexes. Laverda built the 750 SFC as a homologation special for endurance racing. Then they sold it to the public. That was a mistake, or a stroke of genius, depending on your perspective. The SFC made 80 horsepower from 750cc and weighed 390 pounds. It was brutally fast, stunningly beautiful, and completely unforgiving. Everything about it was race spec. Clip-on handlebars that put you in an aggressive crouch, foot pegs mounted high and rear set, a riding position that made your wrists scream after 20 minutes. The engine was a peaky, high-strung beast that needed revs to make power. Below 5,000 RPM, it was a tractor. Above 7,000, it was a missile, and the transition between the two could break the rear tire loose without warning. The handling was sharp, but twitchy. The suspension was rock hard. The brakes were adequate, barely. And maintenance, you needed to be a mechanic or have one on speed dial. But God, it was fast. And for riders who valued speed above all else, the SFC was nirvana. Just don't expect to survive your first mistake. Moto Guzzi's 850 Le Mans was a masterpiece of Italian design and engineering. It was also a widowmaker in the hands of the inexperienced. The longitudinal V-twin produced 71 horsepower and massive torque. Combined with Guzzi's trademark shaft drive and linked braking system, it should have been a smooth, capable machine. Instead, it was terrifying. The linked brakes, where the foot pedal activated both front and rear, felt unpredictable. Riders complained about inconsistent braking force, especially in the rain. The shaft drive caused torque reaction under hard acceleration. Open the throttle aggressively, and the entire bike would twist to one side. Unsuspecting riders got thrown offline, or worse, into oncoming traffic. And the handling? Sharp when set up correctly, but unforgiving of mistakes. The Le Mans demanded respect. It rewarded skilled riders with incredible performance, but punished novices with crashes. Yet, it remains one of the most iconic bikes of the 70s, because when you got it right, nothing else felt quite like it. Benelli decided the world needed a 6-cylinder street bike. The result was the 750 Sei, a gorgeous, complex, deeply flawed motorcycle that scared as many people as it impressed. The inline-6 engine was smooth as silk and made 71 horsepower, but the bike weighed over 500 pounds, had marginal brakes, and handled like a luxury sedan trying to corner at sport bike speeds. The real danger? Complexity. 6 carburetors that needed constant tuning, an electrical system prone to failure, a cooling system that overheated in traffic. The Sei was a maintenance nightmare that left riders stranded more often than not, but when it worked, it was intoxicating. That 6-cylinder howl was unlike anything else on the road, and the smoothness, no vibration, just pure mechanical symphony, made every ride feel special. The Sei was too dangerous because it demanded mechanical expertise most riders didn't have, but those who mastered it swore by it. Yamaha built the XS750 as an affordable alternative to bigger, more expensive bikes. What they created was a temperamental triple that could turn on you without warning. The 750cc inline triple made decent power, but suffered from severe vibration at certain RPMs. Riders described a death buzz around 4,500 RPM, where the entire bike would shake violently. Worse, the driveshaft had a tendency to fail catastrophically. When it went, the rear wheel would lock up instantly. At highway speeds, that meant a crash. Yamaha issued recalls, but the damage was done. The XS750 also had electrical gremlins, oil leaks, and handling that was merely adequate on a good day. Yet, Yamaha sold thousands because it was cheap, and in the 70s, cheap meant you took the risks that came with it. The Ducati 900 SS is a legend today. In 1978, it was a beautiful death trap. The Desmodromic L-Twin made 79 horsepower and revved to 8,500 RPM. Mated to a lightweight trellis frame and clip-ons, it was a pure cafe racer, fast, focused, unforgiving. But the 900 SS had issues. The Brembo brakes were excellent by 70s standards, but still marginal for the bike's performance. The handling was razor sharp, which meant zero tolerance for mistakes. And reliability? Italian electrics were notoriously bad. The 900 SS left riders stranded regularly. Valve adjustments were required every 5,000 miles and required special tools and expertise. Yet, it's one of the most desirable bikes from the era because despite, or because of, its flaws, the 900 SS offered something rare, a connection between rider and machine that modern bikes can't replicate. Kawasaki's Z1R-TC was an early attempt at turbocharging a street bike. It was also a disaster. The turbo added 30 horsepower to the already powerful Z1 engine, but it also added lag, unpredictability, and danger. The boost hit like a hammer at 4,000 RPM, breaking traction and scaring riders. The chassis, designed for the naturally aspirated Z1, couldn't handle the extra power. High-speed wobbles were common, the brakes were overwhelmed, and the handling? Forget it. The TC was so dangerous that Kawasaki only built a handful. Most were race bikes. The few street versions that exist are collector's items today. Beautiful, rare, and absolutely terrifying to ride. These 10 bikes defined the 1970s. Brutal, dangerous, and utterly unforgettable. They scared riders. They killed some, but they also created legends. Today's bikes are faster, safer, better, but they'll never have the soul these machines had, because danger was part of the experience, and riders accepted that trade. Which of these would you ride? Comment below. Subscribe for more stories from motorcycling's wildest era. Hit that bell. Ride safe or don't. Just ride.